Representative Maney, you are recognized to join us for a presentation on proposed committee substitute for House Bill 1085, Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. Representative Maney, you're recognized.
After that grand entrance and very nice introduction. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, for recognizing me, and members of the committee, minority ranking member, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Each of you last night should have received a brief text outlining some of the major portions of this bill. The staff analysis is very thorough and highlighted other provisions. I know several of you have sent me questions this afternoon, and I look forward to having a chance to discuss those with you. What this bill does, I mean, I know it's kind of a long bill, just like it was kind of a long text, but the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles has a broad remit for things to do for the state of Florida. This bill will update some of the existing laws. It will provide greater public safety. It will address assisting veterans. It addresses making the trucking industry more efficient and having less hassle going through the various systems that are required, and it helps the state comply with federal law. That's the bill, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Representative Maney. Members, do we have any questions on the proposed committee substitute? Ranking Member Hinson, you are recognized in questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And good afternoon, Judge. Rep.
Good afternoon.
Rep. General. They're giving me all your titles. Commendable. Many of the items in this bill seem to be routine changes needed to help the Department of Highway Safety. I'm concerned about the provision regarding sexual offenders and the scarlet letter driver license. Can you please tell me why this provision would be needed?
Representative Maney, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. I should have figured a principal would ask a question about Hawthorne's book. But as I remember, the Scarlet Letter,
Hawthorne's?
He wrote the Scarlet Letter dealing with adultery. And that's not in this bill. That's outside the scope, I believe. The current law already requires, as a matter of public safety, that either the statute or the verbal written designation of sexual predator be on a license. So that's not changing. The only thing that's changing is, instead of it being in black print, like is on your driver's license, I presume, and is on my driver's license, it would change the print to being in red letters rather than black ink, to make sure that the officers would notice it and it couldn't be readily concealed or missed in haste. That's all. It's simply a public safety matter that changes the existing law by changing the color of the print.
Representative Hinson, you're recognized for a follow-up.
Thank you so much. We already have many protections in place regarding sex offenders. They can't live within certain distances from schools. Neighborhoods are notified. I mean, I get a phone call when one moves in my neighborhood. It's quite troubling. There are sex offender registries. However, for someone trying to rehabilitate their lives, having every presentation of a driver license essentially branding them seems excessive. If we indeed believe in rehabilitation, second chances, I guess, why do we need to do the driver's license to drive a car?
Representative Maney, you're recognized. Sorry, Representative Hinson, do you want to clarify? Are you asking why we need, your question was, do we need a driver's license to drive a car? But I don't think that's what you were really asking.
No, I want to know why we need to know if they're a sexual offender to drive a car.
Representative Maney, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. there was a court case up in Alabama that discussed that, and it was Doe versus Marshall, and they found that the state has a compelling state interest in assisting law enforcement to identify a person who is a sex offender, identify the person as a sex offender. For instance, a car may be pulled over for speeding. The officer approaches the car, notices presumably or hypothetically a male with a young female passenger in the car. It would be helpful for the officer to know whether that driver may be a sex offender and whether that younger female may be being trafficked. It's an opportunity to give law enforcement the information needed to make a decision of whether they need to investigate further or whether this is a father and a daughter or whatever.
Representative Hinson, you're recognized for a follow-up.
Thank you for that answer. That is a good idea for that reason. However, being a Black woman and knowing that many of my people are wrongfully convicted, justice is not always just for everybody, and there will be people labeled by this who aren't guilty. I just am concerned about who we might be hurting that might get a chance at life if they didn't have this on their driver's license. It gives me a little, I shudder a little bit because I know that justice isn't fair for everybody, and this causes me some concern. I hate to oppose your entire bill for this.
Representative Hinson, do you want to move towards a question and we can return to this for debate? Because I do think it's important, but let's keep it to questions for this portion. Representative Edmonds, you're recognized for question.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Rep, for this bill. So, as I researched, the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles core mission is the issuance of driver's license, vehicle tags, and titles, and the operation of Florida Highway Patrol. In this particular bill, this would allow the agency to provide driver license images and signatures of the licensees to any criminal justice agency. Is there a reason for this? It seems like it's outside the scope of the agency. And what criminal justice agencies will be included in this bill?
Representative Maney, you're recognized to answer.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for the question. I think that's a good question. I'm going to go back just anecdotally and personally to say that as a judge, I routinely had cases, very frequently had cases, where traffic infractions, speeding, running a red light, whatever, a non-criminal traffic infraction, and a law enforcement officer would pull over a driver and discover that the driver, for instance, may have warrants outstanding for them. You're very kind, thank you. And so it's important for any law enforcement agency to be able to, in the state of Florida, to be able to identify the people they pull over and determine whether they are wanted by law enforcement, fail to appear for a court appearance, an order of arrest for not paying child support. I mean, the officers need to be able to identify folks, and law enforcement is broad. It includes everyone from fish and wildlife conservation officers to county sheriffs to local police officers. I mean, the highway transportation officers, they're all law enforcement, and they all have arrest power, and they all can pull people over, and so they need to be able to to have that information, and computers have made that possible. And so they want to use the technology to protect all of us.
Representative Edmonds, you're recognized for a follow-up question.
Last question. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that response, Rep. When it says for carrying out the criminal justice agency's function, so will it be for someone jaywalking? Will it be for a child missing school? Is there any type of regulation of what type of charges that this will allow the department to send over your signature and images? Or there's nothing in the bill?
I'm not.
You recognize Representative Meany.
I'm not aware of any limits on that sharing of information, nor should there be, because you can't, sitting here, determine every incident that can happen on the side of a road where an agent would need to be able to identify. One thing they frequently run into, and that's why pictures are so important, is one sibling, for instance, may have a suspended license, but his brother or her sister knows their name, their birth date, you know, and so you can say, it's not me, that's my brother. I've got a license, I just don't have it on me. So they have to be able to check.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, General.
Members, any further questions? Seeing no questions, are there any amendments to the PCS? We have no amendments, so we will move now into public testimony. Jennifer Langston from Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, waves in support. Alex Miller, Florida Trucking Association, waves in support. Timothy Qualls, Florida Tax Collectors, waves in support. Scott Hunsford with Escambia County Tax Collector, the Escambia County Tax Collector, waves in support. And Jennifer Blasted from the great city of Venice is here and wishes to speak. She is an opponent to the bill.
Where are you, Chair? There you are. Great to meet you and be from the same wonderful county. I'm speaking today in opposition to the part of HB 1085 that would require the red lettering on the front of the driver's licenses for anyone on the sex offense registry. House Bill 1085 would require that printing be done in the color red on the front of the license or identification card for all information otherwise required to be printed in the front of the license or identification card. First, I do not understand, General Meany, why there is a reason for this. I wonder if there was something that precipitated it that we are not aware of. There does already contain a brand on the licenses that is clearly marked with sexual predator or sexual offender. The Senate version of this bill only requests that that portion of it be in red. I don't even agree that that needs to be in red. If law enforcement has a concern, I'm sure that they will go to their car and they will check their records. There are so many details and facts and figures that I can inform you on today that you're only making lives harder for people trying to rehabilitate that have served their sentence. You are extending their sentence to a lifelong sentence here in Florida and have put on 52 requirements for them to maintain now. And we are asking legislators here to do this again, to add a 53rd. And I do have those timelines available of the 52 requirements that have been put upon these people coming out of prison or on the probation, whatever the case may be. And I'd be glad to speak with any of you about that and the facts about the sex offense registry and the recidivism rates and so on and so forth. In closing, I just want to share with you some words from Jesus that the Pharisees, the law, they put on bounds of loads of things on men's backs, but they do nothing to lift a finger to help them. We're all humans here, and we all deserve certain rights, and it is difficult to be here to speak on this, so I greatly appreciate your time and your willingness to listen to me. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Ms. Blasdell. Is there any further public testimony here today with us? Seeing none, members, we will move into debate. Representative Fabricio, you're recognized in debate.
Representative Maney, thank you for bringing this good bill. In my office, we received many calls on this bill. I support the bill. It's a good bill. I'll note that you are not changing the law as far as what the designation should be on the license, other than changing the coloration of that designation of that sentencing. The appellate avenues for these issues are available to the persons convicted of these crimes, as would be otherwise. And generally, you know, a person who's convicted of one of these crimes, these are the penalties that come along with that. So it is a good bill, and there are a lot of other good things in the bill separate and apart from this, and I thank you for bringing it. Thank you so much.
Ranking Member Hinson, you're recognized in debate.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And for the record, Hawthorne in isolation means many things to many people. In my district, Hawthorne Township was very prevalent in my mind when you mentioned Hawthorne. We know that there are a significant number of wrongful convictions in this state, and a wrongful conviction can leave lifelong scars all of its own. Compounding this by creating a scarlet letter situation, even during ordinary activities of daily living, seems unnecessary, it seems excessive, and unduly harsh. And for that, I'll be voting against, unfortunately, the entire bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Representative Andrade.
Thank you very much, Chair Fabricio. Representative Maney, in looking around the room and thinking about all the members and their experiences that make up the Florida House, there's no one that I can think of who has done more in the space of restorative justice and in the space of expanding compassion in judicial service to the people of Florida than you have. I think your record stands for itself. And I just want to state my personal relief and comfort with the fact that you are the one running this bill. And I appreciate you taking this policy on and working with the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles to make this a good bill. And I could not be prouder to support it today.
Thank you so much. Representative Basabi in debate.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Representative, for bringing this bill. I didn't want this debate to finish without recognizing the victims. I think while certain offenders have an opportunity of serving their time and having that beginning of rehabilitation and second chances, the impressions on the victims are permanent. So in a positive light, this could also be a reminder to those who've lost their way, a constant reminder for them to remember what caused this letter, this red letter to be on their license, and a constant reminder of how to live their life differently. And if those were wrongfully accused, which I understand does happen, it could also be a reminder to them to not put themselves in circumstances where they could be included in such an accusation. But thank you for this bill, and I just wanted to give my heart to the victims.
Representative Escamani in debate.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman, and thank you, General Judge Rep. I definitely trust your leadership on this bill, to echo comments made too. And I'd share with you that we've gotten a lot of phone calls, I think all of us have, specifically to this part of the bill. And my perspective is that we already have licenses that have to explicitly state, and it is a little bit different between a sexual offender and a sexual predator on the license. The current imagery and notice has to be required. I think the concern that the folks who called us, and the concerns that I have too, is that if we believe in restorative justice and practicing that as much as we can, and trust in second chances, there already are so many important requirements that those who have been convicted with these awful crimes follow. And I think the point of the Scarlet Letter is that, because your license is used not just when you're driving, right? It's used when you go to the grocery store to buy, alcohol. It's used when you go to the doctor's office. So I feel like, and the concern that folks are sharing with us is that they are trying to get their lives back together. They do want to try to be able to start again and not go down a dangerous, awful path. And it's hard to do that when you're constantly feeling, that omnibus pressure, I guess, or presence. And so I like the Senate version better, and I'm hopeful that there can be some sort of compromise found to, if it has to be changed a little bit, then that's fine. But I think the complete, change of it, especially since we already have it on the license, it doesn't seem necessarily like that would be necessary at this time. But there are other parts of the bill that I really do appreciate, and just thanks for your leadership in carrying such a complex and heavy bill.
Representative Edmonds, you're recognized in debate.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Rep. I will be voting up on this bill, but I do have concerns again about the department giving images and signatures to the criminal justice agencies. Potentially, it could be a violation of personal privacy. Most driver license information is confidential and should not be shared without the consent of a driver. Additionally, it could be used to track individuals and his activities. And again, that might just be a violation of civil liberties. And finally, the department, it's not a criminal justice. Their function doesn't have criminal justice policies within it. So I just think we should just keep our mission and focus on what they're supposed to do, which is provide licenses and trainings and titles. But I will be supporting your bill. Thank you for this good bill, and thank you.
Thank you, members. Is there any further debate on the bill? That Representative Maney, you are recognized to close.
Madam Chairman, Chairwoman, thank you all for your attention. Thank you all really for the questions. If you read my short text last night or this morning, I highlighted that the sexual predator provision was in there because I didn't want anyone to think that I was hiding it for the presentation, because I expected there would be some questions. But there really is a broad need for this bill. Even landlords may need to know that a prospective tenant isn't eligible to live in a particular place because there are small children next door. And so this is it's not intended to be a scarlet letter. It's intended to protect the public safety. And I appreciate the many favorable comments about the other aspects of the bill. And I hope we don't lose sight of that. Madam Chair, with that, I close and ask for everyone's support, and I'll certainly work. I mean, we have to have it matched up with the Senate anyway, and I will certainly work on that.
Thank you so much, Representative Maney. Margarita, please call the roll.
Representatives Andrade,
Yes.
Arrington,
Yes.
Bankson,
Yes.
Basavi,
Yes.
Edmonds,
Yes.
Escamani,
No.
Esposito,
Yes.
Fabricio,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hinson,
No.
Lopez,
Yes.
Mello,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Nixon,
Yes.
Porras,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Chair McFarland,
Yes.
16 yeas, 3 nays, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Margarita. By your vote, proposed committee substitute for House Bill 1085 will be reported favorably. Thank you, Representative Maney.
Thank you, Chair.
2 nays, I'm sorry. It's 2 nays and 16 yeas.
Thank you, Margarita. Congratulations, Rep. Maney.